Today, my guest is former WWE developmental talent Daniel MacArthur. He is also a four-time NCAA All-American. How are you today, sir?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Woke up this morning, eyes got open, sun's out, nice and shining, just being blessed every day, man. Today's one of those blessings.
I woke up today to take the kids to school, and it was pouring, pouring.
Yeah.
I was like, "Damn it!"
Oh. Hey, good thing about rain means there's growth to come with it, though.
That's true. So, what made you get into sports in general? What age did you start pursuing sports?
So honestly, like my dad was a big factor in that. He was a college football player, played professionally over in Germany, and I started sports when I was like 3 years old. My brother was he's 3 years older than I am, and he was in soccer, and it was like monkey see, monkey do, and I saw him going to soccer, and my parents got me in from 3 years old doing soccer. But like when you're 3 years old, you're just kicking a ball around for fun, right? Like that was our first organized sport, but yeah, man, that was kind of the start of it, and haven't stopped since.
So, what point would professional wrestling start to come into play? What led to you trying out?
Yeah. So my tryout was a little out of the blue, right? It was NIL was starting to become a thing. I was in the last semester of my college, and I saw a couple of my track and field friends who were getting these NIL deals, and I saw there two of them, Aaliyah Hutchins and Isaac, who now goes by Obafemi. They were NIL athletes with WWE, and I reached out to them. I was like, "Yo, like, what's this about?" They're like, "Oh, like, hey, like, I'll put you in touch." And so it kind of started talking to them, possibly doing an NIL deal, but I only, like I said, was in my last semester of college. And they're like, hey, why don't you come be in our very first all athlete tryout that we're hosting? And
Mhm.
because like we don't have enough time for us to actually build an NIL class with you, but be the first all athlete tryout. And so I went to that tryout, and that's kind of where it started off at.
So, what was your first impressions of this tryout?
Oh boy, what did I get myself into, man? Anyone who doesn't know anything about sports entertainment and professional wrestling, man, everyone thinks it's fake. It is very real. The bruises are real, and it was a hard trial. I walked in being like, I didn't watch WWE. I didn't watch professional wrestling growing up, and it was like I was very far out of my element. That was my first instance of like getting there. I was like, oh, this is really cool. They flew me out to Dallas. They gave me this bag with a lot of clothes in it to wear for the tryout,
Mhm.
and then I was like, okay, hey, this is cool. And then we started the tryout, and it was like, oh boy, oh boy, what did I do?
Do you feel like they were trying to push people as hard as they could to see if this is something they truly wanted? Like they wanted athletes.
100%, 100%. If you talk to anybody who goes through that trial, it is one of the hardest athletic things that you're going to do over a 3 day period, right? And it's a new thing for so many athletes because so many athletes are like so used to doing their set routine, like being a professional track and field athlete. Now I was so used to doing one thing day after day, where
Mhm.
the WWE trial was putting us through what you will be going through being a WWE superstar, and that was kind of the basis of that trial, and it was giving you the most basic level of the most extremes at the same time.
Was it just a 1 day tryout or a multiple day tryout?
It was a 3 day trial. No,
Did it
by
get
the second day
easier?
you're hurt, and third day you're struggling to walk.
What was some of the stuff that was in particular that was a struggle for you?
So this is going to sound bad, but I'm a fairly large man, and they made us go down to the ground and get off the ground probably 2 kajillion times. And by the third day, you're getting off the ground and you're struggling. It's taking you about 10 seconds to just get up and down, man. You were hurting, but it was a good environment, good athlete environment, so that helped out. But that was probably the hardest thing was just getting up and down, up and down, up and down as many times as they wanted to see it.
So after 3 days, you this is still something you wanted to do, even though you hurt like hell.
Absolutely. So my second day there, this is the flip that switched for me because the first day I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I was a very good track and field athlete in college, And I was like, I'm gonna go be a pro track and field athlete. Second day I'm there, I'm still sitting there telling myself like, hey, this isn't for me. They had a Make a Wish kid there, and I don't know if you know anything about Make a Wish, but it's for terminally ill kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like they get one thing they want to do, and this kid wanted to come out to WrestleMania, and my WWE tryout was in WrestleMania, where it was out in Dallas, and that was his wish. And so we got to see him at the tryout. And for me, that was really impactful. I got to see the great things that WWE does as a community,
Mm-hmm.
and just giving that back to the kids. And I thought to myself, like, this is what I want to be a part of. And at that moment, I knew I was like, okay, this is a cool tryout they offer. I'm gonna do it.
So after 3 days, did you get a deal the third day, or was there some buffer time in
Yeah.
between?
So there was two ways they offered deals. They came to a group of us right away. They picked. It was, I want to say we had like 50 to 60 people at my tryout. They picked six of us right away. On the third day, they're like, okay, everyone go back to your hotel, relax. And then as we're kind of walking back, they're like, hey, Daniel, stick around. Hey, you stick around. Like, and there was a six of us, and they went and sat us in a room for about 3 to 4 hours, and we were all just like, okay, what are we doing? Like, and we were in the Dallas Cowboys practice facility, and they like would pull us out of the room one by one. Hey, Daniel, like we're gonna walk you somewhere, right? And you leave the room and you walk down onto the field and across the field, and then you walk through the tunnel, and then you're just like, oh boy, what's about to happen? And they walk you through this little room, and Shawn Michaels is sitting right there. Like I said, I didn't watch WWE, so like I knew who Shawn was, but like I didn't recognize him right away.
Mm-hmm.
And like I walked past him, and he shook my hand, said hi, and he was like, "Yeah, just go right in that room." And Paul Levesque, Triple H was sitting in that room. They had a whole lot of cameras around the table, and they offered me the contract right then and there. And I was very blessed.
What was that feeling like? You're entering a whole new world.
Yeah, dude, it seems surreal, right? Like I can't really explain it. It felt like a dream,
Mm-hmm.
right? To walk into a room, big conference table. Here you have Triple H, who like we had worked with for a couple days leading up to it. I got to talk to him a lot. Like loved getting to chat with him. Wish I had more interaction with him later on in my during my time in WWE. But during that time, it was like what is going on? Like, and here I am, like I've been very blessed for every step, and like that was a huge blessing. It seemed like a surreal moment.
Mm-hmm. So after
Yeah.
you get this contract, what was the next steps?
So once we got the contract, this was in April, and we get the contract. It was like, okay, hey, like we're gonna bring you down. You gotta go through our medical processes. We gotta get you cleared. Okay, hey, we then have to go through all the processes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we gotta go through medical testing. We gotta get down, see what like are the kind of like the facilities look like, all that. And then it was like, okay, hey, we're gonna give you your sign-on bonus, and that was at the beginning of June. So
Mm-hmm.
we had about 2 months through April to May. Beginning of June, got our sign-on bonuses. I think I started because who I came in with, there was a group of us that started into June. There's a group that started 2 weeks into July,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in the group that started right away. And so it was like, okay, hey, quick turnaround. I'm living in Chapel Hill, but okay, I'm leaving Chapel. I lose you.
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm leaving Chapel Hill. I'm going down to Florida, and I'm trying to find an apartment. And I lived with two other guys, Luca Crucifino and Luca Crucifino and Kale Dixon, who are still in the WWE, and they're killing it on the NXT scene. Luca's part of the D'Angelo family.
Mm-hmm.
Love him, so I lived with him and Kale, and yeah, and we just moved into an apartment and got in our day to day life.
So what was your first initial thoughts of the WWE Performance Center?
I thought it was cool, man. I thought it was really cool. I think I came from like very luxury, like
Mm-hmm.
UNC Chapel Hill, like being an athlete there, and like having the top of the notch, like lifting equipment, top of the notch, like just living equipment, right? And
Mm-hmm.
athletic facilities to being down there. I don't know. I didn't know anything about the indie scene, but talking to a lot of the guys, they're like, "Oh, this is world renowned." and
Mhm.
you're just in this kind of warehouse that has AC, and there's like 4 rings inside, and then there's this weight room that has a lot of turf, and I was like, oh, this is like an Olympic village right here. Like
Mhm.
the amount of great athletes that are in WWE was astounding, and just getting to be like it was a paradise for athletes.
So how was the training starting out?
Hard, really. Yeah, so I was paired with Coach Robbie Brookside, and it was like the first like 2 months, like you're just learning the basics. You're kind of going in depth and doing a lot of cardio because
Mhm.
in ring cardio and WWE cardio is so much different than just hopping on a treadmill and running or hopping on a bike and running.
Mhm.
Like no, it was a lot of cardio and it was a lot to start off.
So how was it working with Robbie Brookside?
Oh, amazing, man! I love that guy. I like love him. I haven't chatted with him in a little bit, but me and him still keep in touch every now and then. I still talk to a lot of the coaches down there. Um, he was great. He was one of my favorite coaches to work with, and just a really good person. He definitely has a flip though. He can flip the script, and if you go back and watch some of his WWE matches, you can see it.
Is there any other coaches in particular that you worked with?
I like honestly like all like there was a lot of them. Like you had Fit Finley, Steve Carino, um, Coach AJ, Alexander James, like you had Coach Smiley, Coach Matt Bloom down there. Like they have, and then they had coaches coming in and out, right?
Hmm.
Coming in helping us out, and like they were just it's a world renowned like company. They
Hmm.
doing a lot of amazing work, and like the coaches there, they're top notch. They're the best in the world.
So how was training with all these coaches, and then did they have an idea of what they wanted you to do?
Um, so I had a very different experience during my WWE experience.
Hmm.
Like within I think my second month there, I'd kind of shattered my hand. It was broken about 3 spots, so I had to like actually sit out for about four to 5 months,
Hmm.
and that kind of set my career back because in that time, like it is a company. At the end of the day, I got injured. I was out an extended amount of time. New people came in. We had new people coming into the office and all that.
Hmm.
So kind of what was thought and expected of me was then put on the back burner because new people came in, and that's how businesses work, you know. So what was thought and expected from me, from like I felt from when I first got there versus where I left there, was very different.
You mentioned you got to work with Triple H a little bit. Was this before the transition or after?
This was like a little bit before. Like I, my major interaction with Triple H was during our tryout. I didn't really
Hmm.
get to see him a whole lot once I actually got down to Florida.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was he was already up on the big scale, but he was also recovering from his health stuff and all
Hmm.
that. And but yeah, he was working on the main roster at that point.
So was it a frustrating time because that was a very publicized change of regime down in
Yeah,
NXT?
yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
Hmm.
A lot of people were just like people weren't walking on eggshells, but people were definitely cautious and like
Hmm.
just aware. Right, definitely interesting time with all the Vince stuff, all that. Like
Hmm.
I never had a whole lot of interactions with Vince, so I can't really speak to him as a character, but I know there was definitely like a lot of emotions for a lot of people in that.
Hmm. And it
Yeah.
seemed like maybe when they shuffled some things around Triple H's people, they were like, bye bye, and then we're going to bring in these people. But then when the regime changed again, everybody came back.
Yeah, that kind of seemed like the gist of it, right?
Hmm.
When it's like when John Laurinaitis kind of took over, it seemed like it was shifting of guards,
Hmm.
and then when Sean really got in control and all that, it was another shifting of guards. And I think if you watch the product now, like I'm at this point, I watch my friends, I
Hmm.
watch the product, and I think NXT and I think WWE's kicking on all cylinders in a higher fashion than it
Hmm.
probably has in the past couple decades.
So, what was during your downtime? Did they have you doing anything, just rehabbing, or what's an
Um,
athlete do during their downtime, like when they're
like
injured?
for when I was injured, I think I went about it in a different way than a lot of athletes. Other athletes, like I've seen when they're coming back from ACL injuries or things like that, they're kind of just going in, doing rehab
Hmm.
and getting out of there. For me, I showed up to every practice, sat and watched paid attention, and then also did my cardio stuff while they were doing their cardio stuff. So I couldn't get in the ring, but I was out on the side running on the treadmill when they were running in the ring.
So when
So for
it,
me, like that's how I went about it.
and that's how it should be, I feel.
Yeah.
So when it came time for you to, when you were healed, what was it like getting back into the groove of that?
Um, that was a hard transition, man. I'm
Hmm.
gonna be honest. Like I was in a group class that we were kind of the bubble class, right? Where I was like, okay, we don't know if these people are gonna have WWE careers,
Hmm.
right? And that's kind of because like I was coming off of injuries. They had a lot of new people come in that they had to focus on, and that was kind of the gist of it, right? Like I think they gave me a fair shot. I think
Hmm.
they did right by me in a lot of senses, right? So I don't there's no bitterness there, but it was that day-to-day class was just definitely like it was a weird transition back to it,
Hmm.
right? And it was a little bit harder. I think the one frustrating thing was like all coaches kind of wanted to see a different aspect of things.
Hmm.
So and that became a political game that was a little bit harder to play.
Do you think there's enough coaches for the amount of talent that's down there?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't know what the coaching scheme looks like right now.
Hmm.
But when I was there, like the coaches did an amazing job. Like the staff that's down there does a great job to help everybody out and give everybody a fair shot. Yeah.
So when you came back from injury, did was it just you were just going through the motions? Did they start to take any interest in seeing if they were going to like develop you for TV or matches or?
Yeah, I think for me, like that was kind of more on me, right? Like it
Hmm.
wasn't like, hey, like Daniel, this is what we want, like this is what we want to see from you. It was like, hey, like we just kind of want to see you healthy, see what you can do,
Hmm.
right, and see how I can hold up. And I think for me, like during my time there, I got in a really bad mental headspace, especially being an athlete that then just got injured, and then seeing me put on the back burner. I didn't handle it in my best of way that I could have. And that's something that I was just like, you live with. Like, you're just like, okay, that's a learning process. I wish, like, now I could go back and change things, obviously,
Hmm.
because the end result was me being released. But I think I had to go through that, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I think that was the thing that was frustrating for me, where it's like, okay, hey, we don't know what we don't know what we're gonna do with you.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, well, I can do this. Well, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And there's so many times that you can throw ideas out there and play around with things without a set. Hey, don't do that. Hey, do
Hmm.
this instead. Hey, don't do that. Do this instead. Where it's not even like don't do that or do this instead. There was not a whole lot of guidance for
Hmm.
to then keep producing and growing with it, like character base wise.
What was some of
Yeah.
the things you tossed around?
So for me, like I have a really big Harley motorcycle. I wanted to be a babyface motorcycle guy that's not the stereotype,
Hmm.
right? Wanted to be like every biker is this big burly like tough
Hmm.
guy, right? And I wanted to be the big burly happy biker guy that could kick ass every now and then, right? Like
Hmm.
that was something I played around with. They didn't like it, so I became the stereotypical biker, and they didn't like that, and then I became this really big mama's boy. And I love my mama. I love my mama. I'm out here to make her proud. And they liked it, but at that point, I felt like it was a little too late
Hmm.
for me. Like it was growing, was actually fun. It was the month of my release. I had a match in front of all the coaches, and they said they loved it. And they're like, hey, like we see this being a TV match within the next month. And like, hey, this is something we're thinking about putting on TV. And then it was too little, too late. My name was still on the list.
Did they give you a reason as to why they released you, or it just wasn't working out?
Just kind of wasn't working out and all that. So hey, hold on, give me a second. But yeah, just wasn't really working out and all that.
So, what was the plan after your release?
Get back into track, and I was very blessed and fortunate. I still like was in WWE being an athlete
Hmm.
and all that. So like I still had an athletic background. I wasn't like I was sitting for about the year and a half, 2 years I was going on away from my track and field sport.
Mm-hmm.
So once I got released, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go explore this other avenue that I left to go to WWE, and moved back to North Carolina. Got blessed with joining a great gym, Champions,
Mm-hmm.
and doing that as my part time, helping out, giving back to kids as much as I can, and helping them be the best athletes they can be, and learning from my experiences, and make it in that track and field world that I had left, and just made it to the Olympic trials. Sadly, didn't have the year I wanted to, but saw some really good things.
Mm-hmm. Was professional wrestling ever an option after you left WWE, or is it just something that?
Um, I thought about it. I talking to like Coach Carino, who runs the Carolina pro wrestling out near the beach and all that. Me and him have talked a little bit, and I think about it, and I've thought about it, and it's definitely something I'm never closing a door on. If it
Mm-hmm.
was ever to come back to me, I would do it. Right now, I think there is an athletic avenue I want to explore in the track and field world
Mm-hmm.
that appeases me a little bit more than the pro wrestling side. But I could see myself stepping back in the ring again, hitting some ropes and giving and knocking a few people down for sure.
So what's it like still being an athlete and competing like you just said? You know, you did the Olympic trials. What kind of mental? How was that? Because that's got to be tougher than wrestling right there.
Um, I actually there's an aspect of it that's a little bit tougher,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's an aspect of it that I think works better for me mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, I mean, the sport entertainment world is sport entertainment, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can be one of the hardest people in the room, but that doesn't always mean you're going to get what you deserve and what you get out of it, right? And what you put
Sure.
into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I think in other sports like track and field, it's all based on how you perform. It's all based off of how much work you put in, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the majority of the time, like the work you put in is what you're going to get out. So to me, like there's definitely a caveat, and I think the one thing about regular sports versus WWE is like if you fail in regular sports, that's on you. And then for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, that can be really hard to comprehend, and that can be very hard to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in WWE it becomes a little bit harder, where it's like, hey, if you aren't successful,
Mm-hmm.
like, is it actually on you? Is it on other people? Like, hey, like you're in that ring with one other person and they just pinned you, right?
Yep.
Versus me being out doing an individual sport, it's at the end of the day, it's me versus me. It's me trying to throw a ball farther than what I've ever thrown before, and it's like, did I do it or did I not?
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you're in the ring, it's like, hey, did I pin you or did you pin me?
Sure.
Right?
So
So,
what's next for you?
uh, So I'm gonna ride out the track and field for a little bit longer. I'm gonna start training again. There's the upcoming World Championships,
Mm-hmm.
so training for that and sticking at champions. Just helping athletes become better athletes and taking my knowledge and applying it to the next generations coming up. I'm also partnered up with the Parisi Speed School. He's doing Bill Parisi, who runs the Parisi Speed School, who's also one of my sponsors, who paid for me to get out to the Olympic trials. Me and him are going to be working together, doing a lot of fascia research and all that, and just the athletic world, understanding the human body a little bit better,
Mm-hmm.
and just developing that.
If you could give anybody any advice, whether it's professional wrestling or sports in general, what would it be?
Find positives, man.
Mm-hmm.
Find positives in your day. Like I said, I got in a really bad mental state when I was in the WWE, right? And that's no fault of my own, but I had a lot of cloudy days.
Mm-hmm.
And find positives. Every day there's a positive. You woke up, you opened your eyes, you got out of bed, right? The sun's out. It's raining. Rain means there's new life. Find positives. And at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. Don't hold grudges against nobody. Don't hold anybody to anything else. Like, no, like people make mistakes. Acknowledge them, learn from them, move on from them. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in life and in sports, especially me and one of my coaches in college talked about being a goldfish. Short term memory.
Mm-hmm.
Short term memory. You have a win. You have this really big accomplishment. Acknowledge it. Short term memory. Celebrate it. Move on from it. It's gone. It's gone. You have a mistake. Acknowledge it. Learn from it. Move on. short-term memory, be a goldfish, and find positives every day because there's a lot of negativity in this world.
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot of cloudy days, but you gotta be able to acknowledge the good in life because there's a lot of bad.
Hmm.
Yep.
Where can people reach out to you at?
So you can find me on Instagram at dmac_MacArthur. That's one of my, I would say, best places that I'm interactive on. Right, like my email is attached to that account. Please come find me if you want to chat. If you're an athletic kid, if you're wanting to like grow as an athlete, reach out to me on there. If you're in the North Carolina area, come train at Champions. Oh, other way. It's a great gym. We do a lot of athletic training. We do a lot of like speed school work, and we just help athletes become better athletes. Right? Come train. If you want to find me, I'm easy to find. Instagram, North Carolina. That's where I'll be.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking a little bit of time out today to talk about your career and what you're doing, and thank you for helping everybody that you're helping and being that positive light in a lot of people's lives.
Dude, I appreciate it. Thank you for so much for letting me share this platform with you
Hmm.
and putting my story out there. Like this means I think a lot of athletes have great stories that don't get to be shared enough. So I think this is a great thing that you're doing, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you, absolutely. And if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out.
100%. I think this has been great, and I'm excited to see what this comes out to.
Thank you.